Welcome back to Finland. So what I'm going to talk about today is three new things that I've not mentioned before that we can all do to push back very strongly against Klaus's Great Reset. So let's call the first strategy kill a corporation. This is actually a phrase that Max Kaiser used probably about 15 years ago. And basically most people don't understand the amount of economic power that they have as individuals. And I think much of that stems from the education system, whereby young people these days, they're taught about Marxism and class struggle and all of this type of stuff, and oppressed and oppressor and all that jazz. But they're not actually taught anything about free market capitalism and private business and, you know, just the essentials of it, really. They're just told that it's evil, but they're not actually told what it is, you know. Anyway, look, what I want to say is that do not underestimate the amount of power that you have when you come to spend your money. You could liken it to a daily economic election, and you choose how you're going to cast your spending votes. That's as it is now. We've got to take advantage of this. So you might choose to spend your money at Tesco, or you might choose to spend it at a small business, or you might choose to buy a brand new Apple desk, laptop, computer, whatever it is, or you might choose to buy maybe a refurbished one. Those decisions matter, because the companies that receive your spending votes, they generate revenues, and those revenues boost their profits. On the other hand, the companies that you steer away from, who don't receive your spending votes, well, they don't make revenues. And that means that they're likely to make big losses. And, it doesn't really take that many of us to have a massive impact on a company's profit. So for example, if it's just 20% of us stop going to Tesco, that would lead to a more than 20% fall in Tesco's profits, because their costs wouldn't fall by anything like 20%. Okay, they might buy in a little bit less food, but the thing that's not going to change is their fixed costs, their overheads. And for a company like most big corporations, those overheads are huge. So you might have a 20% loss in customers, 20% loss in revenue, but maybe a halving of profit. So we have huge power to literally kill a corporation of our choice. Which one should we kill? Well, it's your choice. You can go onto the World Economic Forum's website, and you can look at the companies that support the World Economic Forum. So I did that briefly just now, and you've got companies like Apple. You've also got companies like Coca-Cola. Quite easy to avoid, is buying Coca-Cola. There are small companies, say here in Finland, there are plenty of small companies that produce soft drinks that are better than Coca-Cola. And if there aren't any small competitors, then maybe don't buy the soft drinks at all. Maybe buy water. And some people will say, oh, well, I really like Apple products. Well, you have to kind of make a judgment call on that. How important is it? Your freedom, is that the price of your liberty? Would you sell yourself into freedom for a MacBook Pro? So that's the first thing that I would say, is that we need to exercise our power as consumers and stop rewarding companies who seek to enslave us. That's really, really important. We must stop financially supporting big corporations that want to enslave us, or worse. So that's the first thing. And sort of building on that, really, this is sort of similar but different to that idea about I put in the John Galt video. The government at the moment is very, very concerned about the number of 50-year-olds jacking in work early, because it's collapsing their tax income. And also there's massive gaps in the labour market, which means that firms are having to pay wage increases, which lowers their profits. So, if we can get a consumer boycott going on against big corporations, And at the same time, keep the pressure up, work fewer hours. If you can, retire early. It's pretty easy, to at least cut your expenditure and not do overtime, because you don't need that money anymore. Try to figure out ways of enjoying your life that don't involve spending vast amounts of money. If we can do that, we can hit these people in the pockets where it really, really hurts them. And, if you think about Davos and the World Economic Forum, it's basically a bunch of politicians working together with those big corporations. So what we need to do is to start financially harming those big corporations and really putting our brains to it. So every time you attempted to go and buy something on Amazon, that's just you building another brick inside the prison that the likes of Amazon want to put you inside of. The second strategy we'll call tell them that we know. So it could be your MP, or somebody like Tony Blair or Fauci, or they're all on social media. The government posts stuff up all the time on Twitter. Engage with it. Tell them that you do not consent. You do not consent to 15-minute cities. You do not consent to biomedical fascism. You do not consent to digital IDs. Tell them that you do not want their Great Reset. These people, they operate with like this sort of satanic rules of engagement, in that they're only allowed to do bad things unless you consent to it. And they deem your silence as being consent. So stop being silent. Tell them that you don't agree with what they're doing, and any karmic comeback is going to land solely on them because you do not consent. Also, I would communicate with companies. So when I was over in England for a week in October, I went into a Fuller's pub in Richmond and wanted to buy a beer. And they wouldn't accept cash. So, of course, actually they didn't, if I'm telling the truth, they didn't even pour the beer. They just asked for payment up front, probably because a lot of people had just been leaving their unpaid drinks there. But anyway, one thing that I made sure that I did was that when I got home, I was straight onto Twitter, onto Fuller's account, and was publishing, tweets that could be read by everybody, telling them that I don't consent to cashless pubs. I don't consent to trying to replace cash with a programmable central bank digital currency. I don't approve of it, and I'll be never buying Fuller's products again. I think many of these scumbags are Satanists too. So I think it's good and appropriate to engage in spiritual war against these people. So send them Psalm 23. Send them scripture, biblical scripture. Tell them that you're a Bible-believing Christian. Tell them that you reject their Babylon system. The other thing that I would say about it, when you do communicate with these people, is whatever you do, do not threaten them with violence. Do not make any of that type of threat at all, because as soon as you do that, you delegitimize yourself. Similarly, no swearing. It might be very tempting to call them all sorts of swear words, but if you do that, you might as well not bother even trying to communicate, because you've delegitimized yourself. I think another thing that we can all do is talk to people more in our day-to-day lives. So that might be an NHS nurse in a supermarket. Again, the last thing that I'm thinking of is like people assaulting them. And I can imagine people being very angry, especially if they've known people who've been damaged by the Britney Spears. But no physical harm, no physical assaults, obviously, and no swearing. Stay calm, but just tell them, very calmly that what's happened. That they have been complicit. That they put their taxpayer-funded salaries and pensions before the nation's health and our freedoms and liberties. So just politely tell them, and also tell them that they will face justice, that I was just following orders won't work. So just really politely, in a very, very low measured tone, just tell these people that what you think, that what they've done, that they're not heroes in your eyes, and what they've done has not been good. And what on a positive note, you could say to them, look, you know, if you want to save your own skin, you need to blow the whistle now, because time is running out. Time is very much against you. Similar tactics could also be played against other people who are probably having thoughts about facing justice of some sort in the future. You know, encouraging these people to pursue self-interest, because in all honesty, that's probably what they're most interested in, is their self-interest. And you know, that they should blow the whistle now, spill the beans. Time's running out. They know it can't be covered up. Another thing that we can do on that vein is to talk to people and say to them, look, we're in the control group. We haven't got the worst cold ever. Maybe say to the ones that have got health problems, maybe just explain to them that there is a compensation scheme, that people have already received compensation from the UK government as a result of going to the Britney Spears and the Boosters concerts. So, you know, maybe drop them the line that I'm all right, I'm perfectly healthy. It's not all of us that have had all of these mysterious problems, coinciditis. The final strategy is called, call it small and local. So the World Economic Forum wants to own everything and make you a slave. So one thing that you can do to stop that is to support small local businesses. How do you do that? Well, you buy stuff from them. So stop going to places like Tesco to buy your fruit and veg and meat, and instead go to local markets, where I used to live in Croydon, or even in Guildford, Rochdale. There are still local markets where you can go and buy your fruit and veg direct. You can go to local butchers, independent fishmongers, buy all your stuff from small local suppliers, rather than from the likes of Tesco or, as I said before, Amazon. Cast your spending votes in favour of businesses that don't want to enslave you. So some people will say, oh, I can't afford to do that, you know, I don't have enough money. Well, you know, I'm sympathetic towards that, but again, you have to make a choice. Do you want to buy slightly fewer items, or do you want to be a slave? Your choice. I think for far too long now, people have just got into a habit of buying cheap stuff, not really caring a damn about how it's made or where it's made. And it's now time for us to be responsible adults and think a little bit more. So, you know, in the case of beer or something, don't just go and buy stuff from one of the big brewers. Go and buy a small independent, even if it's twice the price. You know, if it comes to it, maybe drink half the quantity. Do it that way. And figure out more interesting things to do, you know, and do it that way. So that's all that I want to say today. So God bless.